Hola mis amigos, Jennifer here. I want to first off start by saying Daryl and I want to apologize for the low quality sound of the first video that we uploaded on this subject matter, and thank you very much for your patience while we remake this video. Daryl wanted me to talk about my experience with getting my RFC number and renewing our temporary residency visas. So I first watched Paul's video from two expats in Mexico entitled How to Apply for Your Mexican RFC. So I'll let you watch his video for more details on the matter. I'll just mention that an RFC is an alphanumeric number for tax purposes here in Mexico, and the real laws have recently changed, requiring companies to obtain an RFC with every transaction. In the past, they just made up our RFC numbers for foreigners, like when I opened my bank account or when we bought the car. And these laws have made it more difficult for them to do that. And some companies are just refusing to do business with you until you get your RFC number. So because I watched Paul's video, I knew there was a very large lineup to obtain your RFC number, and I was in no real hurry. I just thought, we'll let the hordes go first, line up, wait, and then I'll trickle in later when the horde is through and get it done lickety-split. But then I turned 50 and was pretty sure I was now eligible for a pension back in Canada. So I contacted Sun Life, and they sent me a form, and on this form it requested my RFC number. So now I was very interested in getting this number as quickly as possible. So I used Paul's instructions on how to get on this virtual lineup for the office nearest me, which was Mérida. And then after getting on the virtual lineup, I started to read the comments and learned that the Mérida office had over 6,000 names waiting on it. I didn't have the patience for that. So I think it was Daryl who found a comment from a gentleman in our area who had faster success going to Campeche to get it. So I figured out how to get my name off of the Mérida virtual lineup, and just went back in to do the Campeche virtual lineup. At first I was a little confused because there were some steps missing, and I didn't know what was going on, and then I realized that there's no virtual lineup for the Campeche office. You're just there to make the appointment. So instead of going in the virtual lineup, I made my appointment for, I think it was maybe a week, a little more than a week away, and I was done. I had my appointment. It was for 9:50 in the morning on a Wednesday, and we drove out there. We were a little early. I did bring with me to this appointment originals and copies of my passports, my temporary residency, my CERP certificate, which I didn't have. Everyone knows that your CERP number is on your temporary residency visa, but this gentleman who had done it in Campeche said he brought his certificate. So I used Paul's video to go to the website, the CERP website, where you, when you don't know your CERP number, and I was able to print off, or save, I should say, because I don't have a printer, the CERP certificate, and then my original and copies of the CFE bill as well. I also brought a memory stick. This gentleman said he didn't need it, but other reports were saying you needed a memory stick, so I have one, brought it just in case. I didn't end up needing it. So we got there early, and I went up to the security guard and I said, I have an appointment. Do I have to wait out here? And she said, wait for them to call your appointment time. What time is your appointment time? I said, it's 9:50. She goes, okay, you're going to have to wait for them to call your time. So I think we had not quite an hour before my appointment time. So we went and had breakfast nearby. By the time we were done that, I went back to the office, and the security guard was looking out there looking for me, so I got in right away. Went into a lineup for a window where she took my ID, my passport, and looked up my appointment details in the computer, because when you book the appointment online, there's some personal data that you insert in there. So then she printed off a number for me to go sit in the waiting room and wait for that number to be called and which window to go for. So I think I waited not quite half hour before my number was called, and then I went up to an agent, and she said, "So why do you want an RFC number?" Well, I didn't think it was very smart to say, well, because YouTube told me I needed one. So I did try explaining in my very bad Spanish that, I needed it for my pension in Canada, and I don't think she understood me. I think I'm now at the point where I understand Spanish better than I speak it. But she just moved on and said, "Do you have a bank account?" I said, "Yes, of course." So then she just started the process of getting my data in the computer and everything else. And she didn't ask me anything else. It took about 15 minutes for her to do what she needed to do. And then at which point she printed off my RFC number just on a piece of paper on their letterhead and gave it to me. And then she took all of my originals and said she needed to scan them and to go wait in the waiting room for her to return them. So I did that. I waited maybe 5 minutes for her to return my documents, and I was out of there. The whole process took about 1 hour from my appointment time to me leaving. And we drove back to Progreso the very same day. So we only drove to Campeche for that brief appointment. So yeah, pretty easy. Did it through Campeche. They didn't seem to care that I lived in the Yucatan. No issues. And I now have my RFC number. And I just need to, I think I changed it with the bank. Yes, I successfully changed my RFC number with the bank. My internet company's been asking for it, so I'll be able to change it on that. And other than that, I really haven't come across it. Haven't heard from Sun Life yet. I did send off that form. I can keep you posted on that. So next on to our temporary residencies. I'm not sure if you know this, but anytime you move, you have 30 days to let INM office know that of your new address. So since I had to do a change of address and I knew our temporary residency was coming up for renewal, I wanted to go into INM and make an appointment. But when I made that appointment, I wanted her to make sure that I had everything I needed. When we did this process last year for our first year temporary residency, you guys may recall we hired a lawyer to do it. We were freshly landed, stressed, and unsure of ourselves. So that's the route we went. But after hearing some positive experiences people had in using the Progreso INM office, who did not speak any Spanish really, I decided that I was going to do our renewal myself. So I started off by going to the government website and navigated my way through. So I've taken some screenshots and so that you can try to navigate through yourself. Now my computer automatically translates to English to a point, but then it'll stop, and it's just, I think because they're pictures, it'll translate text, but not pictures with Spanish words in it. So I'm hoping that these screenshots will help you to navigate through no matter what your Spanish level. So here they are. This is the home page that I got. Your picture might be different when you open it up. I clicked here, see all, under identity, passport, and migration. And then clicked migrations, visas, and stays in Mexico. So now you can go ahead and click notification of changes to the INM by temporary and permanent resident foreigners. Clicking on any of these three spots is going to take you to the exact same new window, so it doesn't matter which one you click. A tiny bit further down that same page, do not click on this change link, it's the wrong one. This window is just notifying you that you can pay directly in some INM offices. This is where my computer stops translating, so you click on Trámites Migratorios. Now once you're in there, you can choose what change you want to do. So I did Cambio de Domicilio and Expedition de Documento Migratorio por Renovación. Click Solicitude so you can start filling out the online form. Use the drop-down arrows to choose the change that you want to make for change of address as it appears here. For temporary residency renewal as it appears here. Your CURP can be found on your temporary residency card. Continue filling out the information on the form based on your personal information. I would suggest you use the address as it appears on your CFE bill. You can authorize somebody on your behalf. On Daryl's, I authorized myself. You do not have to do this step if you don't wish to. Once complete, you can hit save, and that's where you can save it for printing and or print it. Now, I'm not positive, but I believe that the INM office where you do your temporary residency and renewals, etc., needs to be in the area that you're living. So because I was doing that change of address, it wasn't a problem for me to go to Progreso. I'm not sure that if you lived in Mérida, that you could go to the Progreso office to do your temporary residency, but I'm not 100% positive on that. So I filled out those forms online for myself and for Daryl, and I saved them because, again, I don't have a printer. And then I emailed them to a company in Progreso that's called We Get It Done. They're across the street from the INM office, and they offer print and copy services, as well as internet services and expat services, including immigration, vehicle registration, temporary import permits for your vehicles, etc. So I had them print and or copy the following documents: our passports, our temporary residency cards, my CFE bill, the change of address form I filled out, and the online renewal form that I filled out. So once I had all those copies organized, I took them across the street to the immigration office to make her appointment. The young lady that works there in the waiting room is fabulous. She's so nice and very helpful, and she has very good English. So she looked over my paperwork and she said, well, it's all in order, to make sure it was all in order. And then she gave me another form. It's called Formato Basico, or basic form. I believe it's the same form that we filled out back in Canada when we went to the consulate. It looked like the same information. Excuse me. And then she said that the change of address form that I have was wrong. It was just plain, it wasn't, she said that one that they needed had their header and footer on it. So she said, you know, find the right form and bring that one back to your appointment. And so we made our appointment for September 9th. So we showed up with our, I went home, I looked online, I did not find that form that she was talking about. So we showed up for our appointment on the 9th with the same forms that I had showed her, and I explained to her when I got there, you know, I didn't find this form. So she showed me on her computer where to find it online. So I ran across the street to We Got It Done Again and used their internet and their computer to find the correct form, fill it out for both Daryl and I, and had them printed off and ran back to the immigration office. So now she's organizing all the forms and everything's correct, and then she realizes that our temporary residency expires October 14th. She at that point apologized for not noticing that earlier, but their system did not allow them to renew temporary residencies more than 30 days in advance. So we were able to do the change of address that day, get that done and processed, but we had to make a new appointment for September 14th to renew our temporary residencies. But I knew at this point that all the forms that I have were correct, and she organized them for me so I just had to bring them back just like that. So we returned on September 14th for our appointment, and they started, no problems, getting everything in the computer right away. There really wasn't much long of a wait, and there wasn't too many people there. But then at a certain point, they stopped and said, the boss isn't here to sign and stamp your paperwork, so we can't finish this process today. Everything's done except for your photos, your fingerprints, and your payment. Can you come back tomorrow at 2 p.m. to finish all that off? Okay, no problem. So we did. We went back the next day at 2 p.m. and there were so many people waiting. The previous 3 times we had been there, there hadn't been that many people. So we were kind of surprised. I'm thinking they told everybody come back at 2 p.m. So we waited probably 45 minutes to an hour. And they were just helping one person that whole time. I don't understand what that holdup was, but once that person was done, they just started rolling through everybody that was waiting, lickety split, including us. So did the photos, did the payment, and the fingerprints. It costs 8,993 pesos for each of us to renew for 3 years, or 450 US dollars or 600 Canadian dollars. They took away our expiring temporary residency cards and said that our new ones would be ready in about a week. I expect that this time frame varies a little bit depending on volume, and we had a Mexican holiday during our time there, so that might have slowed it up. So that was it. We are now legal for another 3 years, and after which point we'll be eligible for permanent residency. So I look forward to that video in another 3 years. Again, we want to thank you for your patience on the quality of our last video. We are a simple channel and we talk about our experience. So that was an experience about volume. I'll just do my videos inside from now on, I think. It was a nice backdrop, but did not make for a great quality video. So again, I apologize, and adios, mis amigos. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.